Welcome to Soul Shift, where modern science meets soul and real life meets real transformation. I'm Allie Anderson, and I'm here with both of my co-hosts today, Mindy Gorman-Pletzer and Christine Morgenstern-Shin. And today's conversation is one I think so many of you are going to feel deeply. Because if you've ever found yourself thinking, I know what I should be doing, I just can't seem to stay consistent. Or why does taking care of myself feel so challenging? Then today's episode is for you. Today, we're joined by Dr. Amy Behimer. Dr. Amy is a pharmacist and a board-certified health and wellness coach who helps people with autoimmune disease build habits that actually stick. After Amy was diagnosed with MS, she became determined to create health that is better after a diagnosis than it is before. Blending her clinical background with real-life experience and practical coaching tools, Amy teaches simple, sustainable habits that boost energy and ease overwhelm. She is also the host of the Autoimmune Health Secrets podcast and the creator of Club Habit Hub. Welcome to Soul Shift, where modern science, ancient wisdom, and real life come alive.
Soul Shift is your weekly dose of inspiration and a reminder that meaningful change can be both gentle and powerful.
Together, we'll unlock practical tools, share conversations that spark something beautiful, and celebrate every facet of your incredible human experience.
Your energy matters, your growth matters, and you matter. Let's shift boldly,
Joyfully.
Together.
Amy, welcome to Soul Shift. We're so happy you're here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Amy, I'd love to start off with something that really stood out, what Allie just shared. You talk about becoming healthier after a diagnosis than before. And I think for many people, and at least the clients I see, a diagnosis can feel really destabilizing and just unsure and unclear and downright scary sometimes. So what does that actually mean for you, becoming healthier after the diagnosis?
Well, everything that you're about to hear is because I had to figure it out first for myself. And so many of us, I know, we have to find this work and come to it in that. But when I got this diagnosis of MS, it was my third autoimmune diagnosis, and it just rocked my world. It was this uncertainty, this fear, what I now can recognize untrue belief that, well, I guess now I'm never going to be healthy. I mean, I have a debilitating, progressive, neurological, disabling disease, which is all words used to describe this diagnosis, but it's so short-sighted if that's all we're going to incorporate when we look at our future health. And so it may be the Michigander in me. I'm from Detroit, and there is this really interesting quote from Henry Ford. He said, if I would have asked the people what they want, they would have said they need faster horses. And so I think that's so true for so many of us. It's like we want to get back to normal or get back to some version that we used to have. But it's like, I love to imagine, what if we can use a diagnosis as a reason to be healthier than we were before? And, we can talk about kind of how to do that. Most notably, we're going to have to redefine health, because in the dictionary, it's defined as absence of symptoms or disease. And so I don't know many people that fit that definition of healthy. So it may take some redefining and some reimagining what's possible. But, with any diagnosis, MS or any other one, it is possible to use it as a springboard to get creative and, again, live a good, healthy life after.
I love that perspective so much, Amy. And what I hear underneath that is a shift maybe from fear to relationship, right? Because so often when the body starts speaking louder, going from whispering to screaming, we tend to move into control. And when that control sometimes is not giving us the results that we're seeking, we become frustrated. But what you're describing feels more like partnership. Am I getting that right?
Oh my gosh, partnership. And yes, whispers were the first couple diagnoses, and then screams. And, there is a lot that our bodies are trying to tell us. And there's a lot that we need to listen to, and we just need to start to build that trust with. Because, I have so many people that get so frustrated. Why do I need to lie down at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? Or why do I need this? Or why am I tired? And what if we trusted that our body was telling us what it needed? Like, would we lie down and take a rest and actually do it from a place of love instead of a place of frustration? And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. That first belief that I noticed I was believing was, oh my gosh, my life is always going to be worse. And just like you said, that was fear-based. And it took a tiny little shift and a little wiggling of possibility to say, what if it's possible my life doesn't need to be worse? And like just that little shift, instead of fear, I did feel more curious and a little more open to seeing possibilities that maybe before I was just closing down because I was just too afraid to even admit that maybe I could be happy even if life looked different than I originally thought it would.
Yeah. Before I ask my question about why you think so many people struggle to reach their health goals, right? Even when they want to feel better, I just need to share my own experience with this. I was diagnosed with a chronic disease at 68 years old, cystic fibrosis, believe it or not. And I lost a sister to cystic fibrosis, so you can imagine the fear. However, I had been struggling with symptoms for so long, my body whispering, starting to scream, that I felt tremendous relief in getting the diagnosis. So I truly understand that shift from fear to relationship and why relationship is so important. So if we apply this to the general public, general population, why is it that so many people struggle to reach their health goals? Is it the lack of trust? Is it the disconnect from the body? Because people do want to feel better. They just don't understand the concept of partnership, perhaps.
Yeah, you heard in my background, I'm a scientist. My PharmD has made me really love evidence-based medicine. So a lot of my answers will sound like, well, the research shows. And we pull this from what studies show because I just love the reproducibility of what these amazing experts and researchers are doing in the field of habit change and in the field of behavior change. Because the first reason is we're humans and we have human brains and we are not taught this stuff. So too many people are beating themselves up, feeling shame about things they know they want to be doing and just can't seem to stay consistent with. And so the first thing that I want to say is you are, again, human, and we don't get this in school, and we should. But the research shows there are very clear reasons why we don't reach our goals. And there are 6 of them that I teach. And the reason I teach what they are is because if we know the questions to the test ahead of time, then we can study exactly what we need to know. So I also like to say, like when someone comes to coach with me, I'll give you the questions to the test, but I'll also give you the answers. You just have to take the test. And so your question, what jumped out at me of why do we struggle reaching our goals is, and everybody like really think about this, as I say it, the number one reason we don't reach our goals is that we don't set it. We don't clearly say, this is my goal. And so, a lot of us may want to feel better. We may want to have more energy. We may want symptoms to go down. But have we really, drawn a line in the sand and said, this is my goal? Because our brain takes a very different relationship with it. When we claim it, we state it loud and proud. And the world, when we do that, will present us with everything that wants to get in the way. But if we embrace those signs as markers and get curious and say, oh, okay, if there's this obstacle around that, how am I going to do that? And we just, again, start to take those obstacles one at a time and, figure out how to get around them. So the first reason would be, how many of us do have a goal? Like, this is the goal I'm working on with my health.
Well, so just saying, I want to feel better is being pretty vague. You need to be more specific. What is it going to take for me to feel better?
Yeah, or even if it is to feel better, like, are you recognizing that that's a goal? Like, are you recognizing that there are steps we can take? There are things that you may need to do different and, deciding what measures you're going to take and how you're going to do it and coming up with a plan to reach the goal. it can start with something as simple as I want to feel better. And we can get way better, looking around the room and seeing health coaches. We know that we can make goals better. But yeah, that first step is, proudly saying, this is a goal I have, and being willing to sit with that discomfort that we may not reach it on the first go. That's often something that can keep us from setting a goal and going for it loud and proud, is because, the fear of disappointment.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Amy, I love the way you're thinking about all this and the way you're approaching it and the way you're sharing it with your clients and beyond. I know a lot of what you just said resonated with me, and I already have goals that you said. And I was like, oh, I could make this a goal. So I appreciate it very much. But I do want to pause here and begin to kind of make it a little bit practical as well, right? I can imagine someone who's listening could be thinking, okay, that's me. I start off strong and then I fall off. And something I often say in my practice is these health habits, these health goals, they don't have to be complicated. They don't have to be complicated to reach our health goal, right? So I want to ask you, what are some of the things that you have your clients doing that are just the small, simple steps that get them started towards reaching their health goal?
So one of those 6 reasons that I mentioned is that the goal is either too big or it's outside of our control. So, that just saying what the reason is, we start to see what the solution could be. And so similar to, you've likely heard of Tiny Habits. It's an amazing book by a researcher named BJ Fogg. Or I've never met a client who hasn't read, purchased Atomic Habits. It is so popular for a reason, and that's James Clear. And they have their versions of, the 2-minute rule, or breaking it down, making it smaller. But why aren't more of us doing it? And so the play, I call it a play because I have a ABC Habit playbook where it pulls on the research from these greats and hopefully makes it very tangible. It allows us to mix and match the different strategies and research-backed ways, to overcome all these 6 reasons in a way that works for any habit that we're trying to make. And so the play is called Trust in the Tiny. And what it does is it brings in a little bit of the mindset work, a little bit of the belief work that recognizes that the only reason that we likely aren't doing a smaller version of the thing we want to do. So let's say you want to be exercising. Let's say you want to be eating differently. Let's say you want to be resting more or sleeping better, or any habit you think of. There's a tiny version, whether it's 2 minutes, whether it's 1 meal, there's a tiny version. The only reason we wouldn't be following through on it is that we may be missing that trust that this tiny version will actually get me closer to the goal, or that this tiny version does have the power to change my health and change my life if I show up for it consistently. And so I would say for anybody who really in that getting started, recognizing that it does not need to be perfection. And in fact, if we shoot for perfection and we aren't able to maintain it, then that fall down from perfection can sometimes make it harder to get back up. So really believing and tapping into the realization that while small, consistent action is not sexy, I think it's really sexy once you recognize what it can get you. But trusting in these tiny steps truly is a breakthrough that so many people that I work with end up having. And some people cling to it immediately and they're like, okay, this makes sense. I can do this. Some people take a little bit more time, and we have a process to really look for evidence, to really find the ways that we can trust in the tiny. And when we go looking for that evidence, it really gives us the reward and the satisfaction that we need as humans to come back and show up and do it again. And over time, before you know it, that tiny that we're trusting in is really anything but tiny.
What I love about what you said, Amy, was the trust piece. Because think about it, no one's going to take action unless they truly, truly believe in whatever that action is, right? And a lot of us, I feel, have limiting beliefs when it comes to habit change. And you're breaking it down so it's so simple that they could, I say, stumble over the answer, right? Like they do that one thing. And when it comes to trust, through my kind of neuroscience lens, I always think about it's connected to safety, and it's connected to safety in the body. And a lot of times when change feels hard, I always say it's great if you have grit or discipline, but this isn't about willpower, guys. This is more of a nervous system response. This is more, is your body feeling safe when you're thinking about, okay, I'm going to take that action step, you know? And so when you look at habit change, where do you see the nervous system influencing someone's ability to actually, A, first create the habit and then also stick with it?
You mentioned trust, you mentioned safety. These are feelings, right? And one way that I love to give habits the due they deserve is by recognizing that we don't only habitually do things, right? Back to the movement and the eating and what I call outer habits. We also are habitually thinking and feeling things. And those are the things that are practiced. And even if they don't feel good, they're comfortable because it's what our body knows. It's that habit of going to maybe not feeling safe, maybe not trusting our body. These more inflammatory emotions that sometimes people don't realize how much that how we're thinking and feeling impacts our biology. It impacts our physiology so directly. And so one way that we approach this is for these goals that we set. Your goal may not be to do something different or to stop doing something that you know is not good for your body. I encourage people to set the goal as a feeling that they want to make more habitual, or as a thought that they want to think more often on repeat. And we can apply the exact same strategies to our inner habits, is what I call them, because you can't see them. But all day long, half of my day is being run by these habitual thoughts and feelings. And my body will keep going to those ones that are familiar because they feel safe, even if they are not the ones that are helping my body heal and not the ones that are giving me more energy. And so when we say, okay, safety or trust or joy is one that people come into my membership and say, I want to feel more joy. And we put that as the goal. And sometimes it's less about eliminating something that's negative and more about filling it with the alternative. Even if it's not as bright and fluffy as joy, if you don't feel safe to go from, unsafe and distrustful with your body all the way to joy, maybe we can go to something more neutral and just start to, again, get our bodies comfortable to feel safe in that space. And it's just amazing. It feels sometimes a little bit more woo-woo for some people if they're not as in touch with, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? But again, proving that repetition is what matters. And so when we can redirect our brain, when we notice it going down a thought pattern that we don't love, and we consciously redirect it to something neutral or a little bit more positive, and then noticing, well, how does that feel? And, you see people on coaching calls, like you almost can see the exhale, the relief that comes when we find a belief that we feel safe with and that we can open up the possibility to. And again, it's not sometimes going to like the really fluffy mantras or, the inspirational quotes that you see. We have to find these kind of baby beliefs that we walk our way into, keeping in mind, let's feel safe as we get there. I hope that answered the question okay.
Absolutely. And what I love is you brought it down to practicality and very, very relatable for our audience to understand, because getting caught up in the minutia of the physiology and the science sometimes get a little too, I say, in the muck for people. So I like what you shared, just keep connecting with some kind of positivity. And I love how you're keeping them very consistent. That sounds like a theme in your work. And because, a minute a day, every day is so much stronger than, an hour twice a week, right?
And for the practicality, for anybody listening, like what this looks like. So, we have a mindset, which is really our collection of our thoughts, is the simplest way I like to describe it. And there's going to be positive ones, there's going to be negative ones, there's going to be neutral ones, but it's our collection. And so we want to shift our mindsets in the direction of health, in the direction of the good ones at least even out or outweigh the bad. We're overcoming that negativity bias. And so to do that, how do we do it? We do one conscious thought at a time. We're not going to wrangle the 60,000 that are floating around, but one repetition with a conscious thought that we are choosing on purpose, that again puts our body in a state of safety, one repetition at a time. If we're not in a rush, if we're willing to keep coming back to it, will rewire our brain. Thank goodness the field of neuroplasticity is emerging, and it has emerged. We're well beyond that. But a couple decades ago, we didn't realize that we could rewire our brains in these ways. But it is the basis behind why this approach actually works. And so let's get practical. In my group membership, twice a year, we focus on mindset specifically. And mindset is infused in everything we do, but it gets to be the star of the show for 2 months a year. And there's 6 different areas we work on, and this may be too many details, but mindset is one of them. So 6 areas twice a year for each one. So let's say it's Mindset Month. We have a community garden, right, where we come in, and this is inside the membership site, but the community garden is where you plant a belief seed. So that looks like Allie coming in and saying, I believe that it's possible. I could trust that 2 minutes of exercise every morning will get me closer to my goals and give me more energy. And that's just a little belief seed we're planting. Now, all month long, you come back to water it, to fertilize it. You can come in, Mindy can come in and say, oh, I see this, and give encouragement. And that's a little bit of sunlight. And so we keep coming back, planting, like I said, fertilizing, watering. We're the soil that is building up this belief seed so it becomes a strong plant that, you could fast forward in 10 years and there's no way you wouldn't believe that thing anymore because we gave it the time it needed. And this works because another reason why goals fail is that we just forget them. And so again, having a process where we don't make our brains have to keep all this in it, it's a processor, it's not a storage container. And so having a process to not have to remember it all, but instead get to keep coming back to the same things over and over. Because again, it's not your fault if you forget. It's hard to keep all this stuff. So that's a little bit of the practicality, is this community garden where we come and we literally repeat it. I practiced it. I told my husband. I told a friend. I celebrated it. I found evidence for it. And we just start to show our brain, and then that first time you realize, oh my God, my brain went to the new thought first. And that's an exciting moment where we really do create new beliefs.
I love this though. In my practice regarding eating psychology, so much depends on the reframe.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So many of the people we work with, and I'm sure this is true in your scope of practice as well, are so attached to their story. They're thinking, I'm just inconsistent, or I lack willpower, or I need more discipline. Basically, the disease of not enough. But if we can help them reframe that belief system and help them understand that the transformation is going to come from what they can let go of and make room for what can come in, it becomes a win-win. So what would you say to somebody who you see is stuck in that identity wheel, who feel like being consistent might just be too hard for them because of how it's always been?
Yeah. What you just said, I hear all the time, 4 little words. I'm just not consistent. I'm just not consistent. I'm just not, and again, it's that identity. But consistency is a feeling, right? And consistency starts with, again, identifying with a thought that, wow, it's possible I could learn how to be consistent. And so when we can remove our identity from that piece, it's everything. So a simple shift. If any of their listeners, if you're listening, you've ever thought or said or complained that I'm just not consistent, try replacing it with, I have a habit of not being consistent. And so then all of a sudden, wait, Amy just told me that we know how to make and break habits. So then all of a sudden it's like a completely better problem to solve. Because it's not who you are. It is something that's comfortable in your body. It's a habit. And I promise you, we have these reasons why goals fail. And we have these reasons why habits feel hard to make and break. But again, we have the answers to the test. We know that if we stick with it, we can find a way around it. It's kind of like, a GPS, you put in a destination. And so let's say you're putting in consistency. You want to become a consistent person. If there's a roadblock, if there's evidence that comes up, your GPS doesn't say, turn around and go home. It says rerouting. And so one of those secrets that we do is that we just reroute. We find a different path to get there. But the main piece there would be remove yourself a little bit and call it what it is. It's a habit. I have a habit of not being consistent. And once you do that, you really can see, oh, what if I learned how to change habits? Okay, then totally better problem to solve.
Yeah, I can see how that can change everything. That is one of the simple shifts that will create a huge transformation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Amy, I love everything you're talking about. And I definitely see this in my practice a lot too. Like people will come to me and they'll think they're the problem. Like I'm the reason I can't get better. And I think really what you're saying, it's just the way you approach it. What you're doing right now isn't really working, but it's just the small shifts you can make. Very small shifts. I often say the small shifts make huge transformations. And I love that what you're approaching is these are tiny little habits you can incorporate into your day that are going to make giant changes in how you feel and your mindset and how your body feels and how much energy you have. I think this conversation is so encouraging to me for everyone out there, no matter what you're dealing with, right? Whatever goal you're trying to reach. I think that you have so much brilliance in what you're sharing.
That's very kind. And, the research is out there. Like I said, these books are popular for a reason. It's just, I hate if anybody is beating themselves up because they've read the book, they understand it, and then they're not applying it. Again, use it as another reason to think, oh my gosh, I'm doing something wrong. And we're just not taught that stuff. So, knowing it in our brain, it's really about learning how to know it in our body. And the other thing that, again, as another coach, the amount of people that I know that have coaches is like almost zero. It's my clients. I am a coach. Coach changed my trajectory of my life and my health, through recognizing, whoa, I can shift how I think and feel. And yet, even the people in my life, it's just not widely used, And so part of that is in medicine, in my pharmacy career, the second a medication is proven to help with something, there's a 17-year gap until it becomes the standard of care, until it makes it into the guidelines, whether it's MS or hypertension or lipids or cystic fibrosis. There's a 17-year gap because things move a little bit slow, right? And that's where we are with coaching. So, I think too many people feel like, oh, if I have to get a health coach, I'm just not cutting it or something's not right. I get asked a lot, like, what's the biggest barrier to health coaching? Because the research is plentiful and it's growing by the day that this can save money. Insurance companies are getting on board and outcomes are improved in chronic illnesses. And so I guess I say that to first say it's not your fault if this doesn't come natural to you or if you need to learn it. And if you, do feel a pull, like, oh, I want to learn this skill, I want to learn that skill, to have no shame in any way about getting support to do it. I did it, I do it. I mean, I always say, I cannot see my own blind spots. Nobody can see our own blind spots. And I try to also be a voice for coaching because for a couple of years when I had my first coach, it was a mindset coach. And I was really, again, learning all this about the applicability of it. And people would say like, how are you so well adjusted? Or how are you doing so well? Because they would look at me, they're like, I would never want that diagnosis. And these symptoms are hard. And I realized I wasn't saying it loud and proud. I was kind of, oh, I'm just, this, or I have a therapist, which, I did for a time. And then finally I'm like, I'm part of the problem. I would love to normalize that we get support for this stuff because it can just make the process so much more effective, but so much more enjoyable.
I love that. And I hope everyone who's listening hears this permission like super clearly that it's okay to get a coach. It's okay to have community supporting you. And you don't have to overhaul your entire life to feel well, right? Complicated problems don't always require complicated solutions. Sometimes you just need someone walking alongside you to kind of hold your hand and help you move forward. And community, as all of us know, is a huge piece of being well and being healthy. So I love that you're offering that, Amy. And I do hope that many people reach out to you because I think what you're doing is unique. I don't think all coaches are approaching the way you're approaching it. And I think that it's very special.
Oh, that's very, very kind. I think it's really cool. Talk about the healthier after diagnosis. I call it the ripple effect, but like be on the lookout for any changes you make because habits affect you. They affect future generations that you'll never meet. If they see you, if we start to change some of these ways that we are, like be on the lookout for the ripple effect. And so, we're a group of people. Most all have a diagnosis, a big diagnosis. Not that there's big and small, but, some people will say, oh, I just have Hashimoto's, or I just have this or that, or I just have antibodies. But we have these diagnoses. And when we start to become this person who sets goals and, shows people we can achieve them and we start to feel better, the ripple effect is kind of wild. And the cool thing is people in their lives, everybody's aging. Or as they age, they're getting other diagnoses. So they'll start to come to them and go, how are you doing this? And that's the coolest thing when, again, proof that we could be the ones that people are looking to when they want to get healthier, even though we're the ones who signed up for this because we have a disease. So it's kind of a full circle moment of, we go first and kind of be that example of taking back some sense of control because some control on things that we love can feel really good. And so taking back control of what we can.
Amy, I appreciate what you just said. And I just really love how grounded it feels because think about it. When your clients, as you're teaching them to do these small, sustainable shifts, when it actually feels doable, when it feels accessible, the body can relax into it. And I look at everything through that nervous system perspective of if we're safe and calm in the body, then that message will go up to the brain, give the brain a message to know what just happened in the body. And then I think that action step will be much more natural and much more doable, much more accessible. And so from a nervous system perspective, this is where I see what you're doing is so brilliant because this is where change becomes sustainable. Does that make sense?
It does. I love the way you described that. And what I think the opposite of that most people are in and find me, and you can tell me if you agree, is in a word, overwhelm.
Yeah.
I mean, overwhelm from the infobesity crisis we are in of all this knowledge and not enough action is extremely, again, back to that inflammatory, extremely, we are not safe if we're always looking for what's the right way or what am I missing, or I just need to learn one more thing. So yeah, tracks.
Totally agree. I mean, to me, integration and then that inner feeling of the trust,
Yeah. And that trust with the body is so very important, right? So instead of forcing change, we're building a relationship that says, I'm listening and I'm responding. There's that partnership piece, right? So much about healing and recovery is about relationship to self, how we think, how we talk to ourselves, how we expose ourselves to the world and expand our presence on the earth.
And we have to check ourselves because if we're agreeing to go into this loving, trusting relationship with our bodies, we also have to get clear if we have some unspoken, unrealistic expectations. If we are expecting our bodies to be perfect and function exactly how we want, and, that's not a relationship that's very realistic, whether it's with us or with others. And so, yeah, part of that is getting, again, clear on what are we expecting of it and can we give our bodies and ourselves a little bit of grace because darn it, we're human. And, things will throw curveballs, and that doesn't mean that we don't want to, again, step into this loving relationship with them.
Yeah. And I think part of that is understanding that the trust process, the cycle of healing, can be done imperfectly and slowly. And that's okay. That's where the grace comes in.
You just gave me a little piece of evidence, my belief seed that I am nurturing all year long. And it started in 2025. We're in 2026 now. But this one is so worth it that I'm keeping it, is how slowing down is not only okay, but it's better. And I look for all this evidence of where, it may have started because I physically sometimes can't keep up with the world for reasons, but like, how do I see that? And so, like I said, I always try to capture and celebrate when I see a nugget, and you just shared that. I'm going to celebrate that today, that it's a little bit of evidence for me in that belief seed, because it's pretty darn strong. Like, I have one friend, we were traveling and she was kind of trying to rush me in the airport and help me with something. And she's like, but we could go faster. And she didn't even realize she said it. And I'm like, I don't even want to go faster, girlfriend. Like, I love you, but I'm okay. And so that's that, 13, 14, 15 months of, again, coming, watering it, fertilizing it, finding evidence. And that's the practical way to like really build beliefs that feel good.
Amy, this entire conversation has been so grounding and so empowering at the same time. It's really beautiful. And before we wrap up, I do want you to share, where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about your work?
Sure. You're listening to a podcast, so you must have a thing for podcasts, I'm assuming. But I do, as was mentioned by Allie, have Autoimmune Health Secrets. And I named it that because it is the worst kept secret that habits can help us feel better, function better. But the best kept secret is how to actually do them. All these ways we talked about in a way that feels good and feels safe and actually feels doable. I also love to coach inside Club Habit Hub, where we kind of take this approach in a methodical, structured way that, again, just builds day after day, month after month to, really become the person that knows how to set a goal, knows how to adapt and reach it, and just slowly build these better habits that serve us today and into the future. Question I get often is, well, where should I start? And so I created a quiz. It's 7 questions. It's 3 minutes or less, and it should be fun, just answering questions about yourself and your desires. But what it does is it gives you the area of your lifestyle. So there's 6 areas in total. That is a great place to start. So again, let's combat some of the overwhelm of all the things you could be doing, and trust that your quiz result, which will give you one of these areas, is the perfect place to set a goal and to, commit to yourself to figure out how to reach it. And so that quiz is available on my website, and I imagine the link in the show notes. So those are a few places that I hang out.
That's beautiful. And Amy, did you mention your website?
Sure. It's www.amybehimercoaching.com.
Wonderful. And that will be in our show notes as well. But I wanted.
Yes. And you can find everything on that site. From time to time, I'm on Instagram at Amy Behimer Coaching. And it's me on the other end. Take the quiz and you get a result. You can hit reply to any of them and ask a question. Tell me what you think I got wrong. I take it all, or this is why it feels hard. Those are my favorite ones, because when you're listening one way, it's like, yeah, but this, or this is going on in my life. And I love to hear that. I love to talk with you about like the real thing that's coming up for you and, get personalized like that. So if you reply to any email, it's me on the other end. Sometimes people will say, I know this is a bot. And I'm like, I'm not a bot. It's me. Yeah.
That's great. Amy, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. You guys talk about grounded. Just I'm leaving here feeling very grounded and very peaceful. That's a good habit to make. So thank you guys. Your presence is contagious.
Well, thank you. That is our goal here with Soul Shift. So thank you. We appreciate that feedback as well. And your perspective is so real and it's so approachable. And everyone listening, if this episode resonated with you, take one thing that you're going to start, one small thing, and just begin there. Check out Amy's quiz on her website, maybe find your direction on the first thing that you're going to begin. And always remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to do everything all at once. It's just one small shift. Your body is never asking for perfection. Your body is literally just asking for support. We're going to share all of Amy's links in the show notes, and you can continue learning from her. And if you found this episode helpful, of course, we'd love for you to subscribe. We'd love for you to leave a review and share it with someone who might need to hear this message today. Until next time, let's all shift gently together.
Thank you for sharing the sacred time today.
We hope something in this conversation touched your heart
and offered nourishment for your soul's journey.
Remember, transformation is most effortless when it happens one tender shift at a time.
Until next week, we invite you to carry one insight from today into your life.
Not as a task.
Think of it as a superpower to yourself.
If something resonated, we'd love to hear from you. If you're joining us on YouTube, feel free to leave us a comment below.
Your words ripple outward, offering connection and comfort to others walking this path beside you.
If Soulship feels like home, please subscribe and consider leaving us a review.
Your support will help us reach more hearts that need to hear they're not alone.
We're holding you in love, so know you're not alone. Your journey matters.
May your heart be filled,
and may your path be filled with grace.